of our focus group. My name is Kaz Ross, and I'm going to be taking us through the part 3 series of this incredible book and some of the powerful lessons we've learned from the Dare to Dream and Work to Win. So you've already heard from Claire and from Michelle, who did part 1 and part 2, the foundations of success and the psychological side of success. Now I'm gonna talk us through the power of leadership in network marketing. That's me with the black feather and the black dress on the right side in that photo. For those of you who don't know me, I'm not normally the size of a whale. I am pregnant with my first baby at the moment, so that's super exciting for me. And I think the reason I've mentioned that now is that I've actually learned a couple of lessons during this book and during this training on things that I really am quite excited to adapt into my everyday life, whether it's leading in my full-time job that I do, or leading in my Forever Living business, or leading at home and the type of leader and mother I hope to be in the future. So a quick background on me: I've been with Forever for 2 years. I'm a manager in the Forever Living business based in Dubai. I'm part of the Dream Team, as you can see with our flags. And I work full-time in events, and I work my Forever Living business in the pockets of time that I have available to me. I used to work for a very big, very busy venue, and I was convinced I didn't have any time available to me when I was introduced to this business by my sister Claire. But it honestly has changed our lives entirely. After finally learning to take the business seriously, I was able to resign from my job that was stressing me out. I got married to the love of my life. I had the best honeymoon, took 3 months off work, and now we're expecting our first baby. So I've gone back to work full-time with events, and by the time baby comes, the plan is to go full-time with Forever. So it's really exciting, and I'm just so privileged to be a part of this incredible company. So what we're going to do, if we get straight onto what we're learning about tonight, or what we're talking about tonight, is we've broken down the session into four sections. So we're going to talk about being a leadership rather in a volunteer army. We're going to talk about helping others to be their best, giving people the tracks that they need to run on, and then we're going to talk about how we can actually implement all of that and hit the ground running. So in the first section, essentially, the title, and it's part of the book that I absolutely adored, was Leadership in a Volunteer Army, because that's essentially what we are. We are leaders in an army of volunteers, because nobody owes us anything in this business. And I think once you understand the skills that you need to work as a manager or lead a team in a network marketing style business, you can take those skills and implement them into every single facet of your life. I've now also recognized, after being in the corporate world for as long as I have been, versus being in a network marketing position, any professional network marketing person who was being interviewed for a job and could honestly say that they were able to manage a team, I think have got a much better skill set than anyone who's managed in a corporate environment. The reason I say that is because it requires a higher level of true leadership than is needed in a traditional workplace. There is no sense of fear or shame or guilt. These things can't be used as substitutes for getting genuine leadership. There's no formal lines of authority, so nobody really works for you. You can't make your team do anything. What we understand is that a leader is someone who knows where he or she is going and is able to encourage other people to come along with her or him. A leader is able to answer 3 very simple but so important questions. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? And why are we doing it this way? A leader essentially is showing someone the way and then stepping out of their way. providing vision and skill and motivation. And leadership by title is incredibly different to leadership by influence. I think it's very easy to get a job and have a title of manager, senior manager, director, but to actually have the skills and the power that's required to lead a team by influence, no title can give you that. So I think for the rest of this purpose for tonight and this training, if we can just leave all the titles and forget about where you're at, it doesn't matter what level you are in the business, and it doesn't matter how big your team is. If you've introduced one person to this business, you are a leader, and it is your responsibility to lead them correctly. So this training is exactly for you. Now, modeling to others. Essentially, modeling to others is understanding what traits do you want to see in the members of your team. Do you want them to be a self-starter, hard worker, working well with others, someone who's not easily distracted, enthusiastic, adequate product knowledge, sets daily and weekly goals, someone who doesn't take stuff personally, is in the business for the long haul? Essentially, our team will do what we do. There is a direct correlation of what leaders do and what gets duplicated on their team. So if those are the traits of the people that you're looking for to work with in your team, those are the traits you need to be set in an example of yourself in. Serving. I think from a distance, leadership looks really glamorous, but there are so many elements to leadership that are less than appealing. If you look at someone who's being loved and recognized and praised for their leadership in public, I can almost guarantee that it's because they've earned their dues in private. Leadership is a fancy word for a head servant. Serving your team is leading your team. A true leader, I think, understands what delayed gratification actually looks like. Leaders do what they may not feel like doing today so that they can do, have, and be what they want to be in the future. Slide 6. So I'm gonna do a lot of talking on this slide because there's a couple of really important things that I want to cover. I think obviously I've got these little images that will talk us through it, but the best thing about this business is also the worst thing about this business. And I think that is it's so true, because as much as it's one of our hardest selling tools, it's one of the reasons most people join this business. It's one of the reasons most people move from corporate world into the network marketing platform. But it's also the one thing that really can end up biting you in the bum if you're not careful. So let's talk about that first. Obviously, leaders are patient, positive, and honest with others. Leaders are patient with their representatives and with the people on their team. So I think the longer you stay in this business, you start recognizing that there is no amount of time available for you to do enough work in. So essentially what I mean by that is the design of the business model is to work as a team in order to live a more satisfying life. So the more people that you have in your team, all working the same number of hours, the less hours are required to work. So as soon as that starts happening within your team, you start appreciating the members of your team who set goals and remain focused and are driven and consistent, and become slightly irritable and short-tempered with those who seem to be doing less or very little. You end up saying things like, I just wish I could find more people like me to join my team. And here's a little secret into the wonderful world of network marketing. The best thing about this business is also the worst thing about this business. We are all our own bosses. You do not have control over anybody. So the amount of work that you do or don't do is completely the same as the amount of work your downline or upline or colleague across from you does or does not do. Our ability to grow a team and become the success we dream of is entirely dependent on other people, but we cannot be that person's boss. We need to be patient while we find the people who are focused and are passionate. And that's what I mean when we say the best thing about this business is also the worst thing about this business, because the reason most people get involved is because they want to be their own bosses. But as soon as someone's their own boss, they owe you nothing. So a couple of rules to remember. I think, people's private lives, so like the private life essentially of a new representative will not stop or change dramatically just because they've joined your team. You have to be patient with them while they figure out how to manage their time. A strong sales tool that we use for this business is that people can work in the pockets of time that they have available. So as soon as someone joins your team, try not to be so expectant on them. You've already encouraged them that they can work this business in the pockets of time that they have. Allow them to, and don't get annoyed with them that they're not giving 24 hours of their day to their Forever Living business. Signing up on paper to be a forever business owner is not the same thing as signing up with your heart, mind, or will. I signed up to be an FBO on paper, and then only signed up with my heart about 18 months later. You can ask my sister. She was in a bit of disarray with me because it was months and months, literally 18 months later after I had joined the business, that I actually signed up as a business owner with my heart. So support, encourage, and give direction to your team. That's what they needed until they find their belief. They will find it, but it may take some time. So how to stay on task? I suppose you need to remember that there's 3 different fuels that you will have to switch between. So 3 fuels that you switch from 1 to 2 to 3 when they start running out. Fuel 1 would be enthusiasm. Obviously, as soon as you get started with your business, you're fired up and you're ready, you're ready for the sprint and you want to fly out the gate and take on the world. And that enthusiasm is awesome and is such a great kickstart to businesses. But enthusiasm will only get you so far. And as soon as that fuel starts to run out, you need to be able to rely on tank number 2, which is commitment. Commitment is the long-term focus, understanding their why, understanding what it is that they're putting the long hours in for, understanding what they actually want from this business in the long run. Commitment, again, is a fuel that eventually can start to wear thin. And the fuel 3 that we call is conviction. Conviction comes when you absolutely know, without question, that this is your future. This is what you want out of your life, and you have every opportunity to make it the success that you want. So how do you build conviction? Well, something that we try and do as much as we possibly can in Dubai. We hang out with like-minded people. We feed off the energy of the team and our leaders. Association is critical to success. Hang around with the people you want to be like. Conviction comes with time. Success obviously breeds success. So we have to learn to be patient with our team members while we start to replicate our conviction. You have to be convincing yourself before you can show your team what conviction truly looks like. You have to believe in your team more than they believe in themselves. And I think that's part of helping other people be their best. Working with others is key to this business. There's 2 main priorities that you need to lead a team. The one is, like I've just said, believing in them more than they believe in themselves. And then the second is to be honest with them, even when you have something difficult to say. So I'll touch on the first one. Leaders must understand the power of a genuine compliment. Encouragement and positive reinforcements is incredible, and it can make such a difference to you and your team. I think it's so easy to fall into a shame-based style of management, but it's the end for your team. Like, study those that you have had the privilege of working with. See what their strengths are, and see what maybe the areas they can work in. But recognize their strengths and let them know. It doesn't matter who you have in your team, they will always offer you a new learning opportunity and something to take home. So I think, remember that it's a privilege to work with these people and have them on your team and be in a position where you can share your knowledge but also absorb knowledge from them. So remember that it's a privilege. and remind yourself to try and see the strengths and the assets that they're able to share, not just with you, but the rest of your team. I think your team will believe the good things that you say easier if they know that you're willing to say the reverse too. They must trust that if you need to tell them something that's hard to hear, you will say it anyway. And I think the best tool that I could ever have developed over my time with Forever Living is to just care. Care first, and it doesn't matter what comes next, it will always come from the heart. So if you care about your team, if you genuinely care and they know that you care, even if you have something difficult to say, even if you have something awkward to say to them, they will know that it's coming from a place of love. So love first, care first, and then speak, always. I think don't be confused with being friendly or popular with leadership, because unfortunately, they're not always the same thing. I personally find it impossible to hide my feelings about a lot of stuff. I think anyone who knows me that's listening in is probably giggling, because my face paints 1,000 pictures and it's normally exactly what I'm thinking. I mean, I've learned to stay positive. I've learned to do what I want to, say positive, so that when people come, remain this really happy, enthusiastic person. So when people didn't come to our business presentations on a Sunday, or when they didn't log on to training on a Monday, or only had 3 attendees on a Monday, I'd learned to smile and carry on. But it was cringeworthy. It's awful. You're dedicating your time to to help build other people's platforms and knowledge and businesses. And what I've now learned is that smile and carrying on as if nothing had happened, or that I wasn't upset, is actually doing discredit to both myself and my team. In true leadership, the right to say hard things comes after the team knows that we care about them and are invested in their business. Additionally, knowing what to say and when to say it is vital. So, for example, with people who don't attend the business presentations, it's okay for me to be upset that no one has made the effort to come, and it's okay for me to express that. But it's also expected that I'll be there in the next week, and that I'm not just giving up and running away. So I think consistency, knowing that you're someone that your team can rely on, knowing that you're not going anywhere, is so key. And then letting people know that it's not okay that I'm the only person here, or it's not okay that I've given this time, you said you would commit to it and haven't. Be honest with your team so that they know how you're feeling and you don't end up harvesting bad emotions around them. Being a good representative of the business model, obviously being honest is so important. But be kind. There are certain ways to say things. Remind people that you care about them before you tell them something that really is hard to hear or a bit sucky. I think in the actual book, he talks about, wrapping your arms around them before you hit them in the stomach. So be kind, be honest, and be gentle. I think there's different levels of involvement for this business, and they range from 1 to 10, and you'll grow in each level as time progresses. I would say focus on your representatives and what they are doing and what their achievements are and their activity, rather than the revenue. That's something that we've always learned from the beginning, both for my own business and for my team's business, is focus on activity, not the profit. The only way to reach the top is by bending down and helping others. I love that about leadership. That's the only way that we can make ourselves a success in this industry, is to bend down and help the people who are learning or new or still trying to develop themselves. The only way that we are going to make ourselves better or our business better is by helping those. And I think that's such an awesome business model to be in. Love the men and women who are on your team and believe in what they're doing. Giving people tracks to run on. This part of the training was amazing for me. So Essentially McDonald's. I actually listened to the audiobook for this, and I've listened to it a couple of times, but the first time I ever did, the section on giving people tracks to run on, he uses McDonald's and the company of McDonald's as such a key business model that I ended up at a McDonald's drive-through. Do not judge me. But anyway, what I loved so much about McDonald's and the way that he describes it is duplication. McDonald's didn't set out to be the best burgers in the world or the fanciest staff or the best menu. They set out to be a company that can have duplication all over the globe. So can the people on my team do exactly what I did? And it's a simple system of duplication. McDonald's followed 4 very simple steps. They sell a store or a franchise, they train owners or managers, they open the store, and then they establish the store and continue with their training. And those 4 steps are exactly what they did every single time. So we need to be giving our forever business owners tracks to run on. We need to be giving them the training that they can then duplicate down their line. Rolling training, business presentations, it's exactly the same as a Slinky. So the Slinky, if anyone knows, I put an image on the slide, but if anyone doesn't know what a Slinky is, where was your childhood? Because that was one of my favorite things of being a kid, was playing with Slinkies. And the only way that a Slinky will work and reach the bottom of the stairs successfully is if it starts with the correct momentum. So that first initial push off the top stair with the Slinky is what is going to establish whether it makes it down the stairs or not. And I think that is the most important thing to try and remember when you're starting out a new FBO, is that it's the momentum you're going to give them now that's going to give them their tracks to run on long term. And the training that you give them now, that's going to give them the tracks to run on and the tracks to duplicate for the team that they're about to introduce to the business down the line. I've also put a little image up here of lemmings, because this entire disc just reminded me of those little lemmings. And these dudes, if nobody knows the video game, they just follow the front guy. That's exactly what they do. And whatever he does, they'll do. And if he doesn't make it to the end of the video game, the level, then none of them do. And if he dies in a hole of fiery swamp pit or whatever it is, then they all follow him. And I think that's so key about this business. If you do it, your team will follow. And you have to be able to duplicate or die. Your business will die. So what are the first 10 actions that they should be taking in order to get their business going? Do you know? Do you know if someone says, right, thank you so much for introducing me to this business. I'm really excited to get going. What do I do? Do you have a list of 10 items that you can put in front of them and go, this is what you need to do. This is where you need to start. These are the tracks you need to get going to run on. Ignoring the need for tracks to run on is like having a brand new train or a locomotive engine without any tracks for the train to run on. It literally won't go anywhere. It doesn't matter how much energy, enthusiasm, flags, t-shirts, banners, whistles, flyers, logos. It doesn't matter what you have. Business cards, Facebook pages, it doesn't matter what you have that looks fancy and looks like a business. If you don't have the tracks to run on, you are going nowhere. Another really important thing I think to remember is what to do with those who won't follow you. So you'll know in about 48 hours what kind of team member you're working with. So you can find out purely by how they hit the ground running, how they, get out the gates, how they want to, tackle their training. If you give them their first 10 steps to start running on, what have they done in the first 48 hours to try and make sure that these steps are achievable for themselves? You have to be patient. Over time, as their business develops, so will their belief in your instruction. They haven't worked with you before. People don't know your style. They don't know your management style. You have to be patient, because as soon as they start seeing the success of you and your team and the small steps that you're giving them and how they are being, they're working and they're being succeeded, I think that's when their belief in you as a manager or as a team leader will actually start to develop. Be honest and direct. Let them know that you are there to help them, but you cannot want the business for them. Again, that's a really, really key point. With us, within the Dream Team, we start every single rolling training with a reminder of we will help our teams build our business, and that is our promise. I will help you build your business, but it's you who builds your business. And I think reminding people that you will be there every step of the way to help and guide, but if they don't take the reins and if they don't run with what you've given them, there is nothing more that you can do. I also think as a leader, it's really important that you don't feel guilty about that. Some people tend to feel a little bit, sad that, or not really sad, but more, I think guilty is the right word. For me, not being able to help someone because they have all the tools, they have all the skills, and you sit in there going, oh my gosh, they could just do this if they would just. I think you have to take a step back. You have to work, like take a step away, remove yourself from the situation. And actually that takes me nicely onto point 3. Go and sponsor someone else. Like, you can't, if someone isn't willing to follow and give you your steps or your tracks that you're giving them a good go and sponsor somebody else, because there will be somebody who listens to what you have to say and is able to run with it. Obviously, notify your team of group events. If you have a team member who has the potential, is kind of interested, but isn't really listening or doing what you're saying when it comes to the tracks or the 10 steps, notify them of the group events, tell them when the BPs are, let them know about the rolling training, but don't give them your individual time. It's not worth it. Your time is so precious in this business. And like we were saying before, the more team you have that are duplicating time, that's where this business starts working, and that's where we really get to enjoy the fruits of our labor. Don't waste your time on people who you are so convinced are going to be great at this business if they are not willing to convince themselves of the same thing. So be protective of your time and make sure that you're sharing it correctly amongst your team. Let people go. Don't be afraid to let people go. I think this, and I have to again say thank you to my upline for giving me the space I needed to breathe way back when, but not entirely giving up on me. But also recognize that some people come into this business, taste the waters, see what it's about, and then aren't interested, and that's okay. This business wouldn't work if everybody was interested and if everybody made a proper go for it. So let them go, be okay with that, and also recognize that it's not down to your management style. As long as you've given them all the tools that you had access to when you got started, you're not doing any discredit to them or yourself. So don't be afraid to let them go, and don't feel bad about that. Be gracious. I think this is one thing that also takes a little bit of maturity, not just in age, but also in business development. So as your business grows, you'll start learning more and more. Not everybody shares their story. Not everybody is always honest 100% of the time. And when I say honest, I don't mean they're lying. I mean they might not be comfortable telling you the ins and outs of their personal life. And that's okay. I think always be gracious. You don't know everybody's story. You don't know everybody's history. If somebody isn't committing the time that you want them to their business, be gracious about it. Let them know that you're there. Let them go if you need to. Don't try and make anyone feel guilty. This is their business, not yours. be gracious, and then stop trying to resurrect the dead. This is this is amazing because I think every single one of us has been through this where we had a prospect who we were able to turn into a client who was just the best client, and we thought, oh, she's going to make such a great team. And then we finally got her on board, and we were like, yes, this is going to be amazing. They became the best team member for about 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, they lost interest, or they lost focus, or they dropped the ball, and they just stopped their business. And you try and beat this horse that is not wanting to go anywhere, and you end up frustrating yourself, your team member, and then the rest of your team as well, because your focus and energy is not being placed in the right direction. Stop trying to resurrect the dead. If someone isn't interested, be gracious and let them go. I think leadership and network marketing is providing 3 very important things: vision, skill, and motivation. So you need to be able to provide your team with the vision to see what's possible. You know, this is where your dream boards come in, and your goal boards, and the orientation around, you know, what kind of future they want for themselves. Where do they see themselves going? How big do they see their business growing? Skill, how can you make all those dreams and visions come to reality? Like, what steps are you going to take? What business model are you going to follow? What 10 steps and tracks to run on? What skills do they need to enhance? What books should they be reading? What training should they be listening to? Which BPs should they be attending? All of these things that are going to help them develop their skill, it's your responsibility to point them in the right direction. And then motivation. We all hit that fog. I know Claire talked about it in the first week with the fog. Your job as a leader is to maintain the motivation for your team. And I think this is where it becomes probably the trickiest part about leading anyone in any direction, is staying motivated yourself, because we all hit the fog. Claire wasn't lying. She was completely accurate when she said this isn't just for new starters. This isn't just for people who've been in the business a year or 2. Every single person at some point or another will hit the fog, probably more than a dozen times in their business. And when that happens, trying to find that motivation is hard. But when you have a team that's following you and a team that you are responsible for to lead, it actually makes getting out of that fog easier, because you have to have your motivation hat on. You have to be able to pull, be honest with them. We've already spoken about being honest with the team. Let them know that you're in the fog. Let them know that it happens, and that it happens to you as well. But also let them know that you're not going anywhere, that you know it's going to be okay, and that you're coming out of the fog, and it'll take a lot quicker to get yourself there. So I think that's a really cool thing about leadership in network marketing, is that you have to provide your team with 3 things: vision, skill, motivation. But the more you start providing, the stronger it gets for you, the stronger your vision gets, the better your skills develop, and the higher your motivation is. So it's game time. This essentially is, now what? Where do we go from here? And it's the home stretch. Essentially, as a leader, just like for me in this training, it's time for me to get out of your way and give you the ball to run with. So the fact that you're actually on this training means that you are an entrepreneur. You're not a dreamer, you have a dream. And there's a couple of quotes that I absolutely loved, which is, the best way to predict the future is to create it yourself. And let's procrastinate later. I love that one. So I've actually got that one on my computer screen at work, is let's procrastinate later, because I used to be the world's best procrastinator. I say used to be because I'm still trying to convince myself that I'm not anymore. So there's a couple of tips that I want to make sure that we leave on. Tip number 1, the definition of inertia. Now, inertia was a brand new word for me. I needed to actually Google it and look it up and make sure I was spelling it correctly. But essentially what it is a property of matter by which it remains at rest or in uniform or in a uniformed motion in the same straight line unless acted upon by some external force. So I'm just going to read that again. A property of matter by which it remains at rest or in uniformed motion in the same straight line unless acted upon by some external force. That's inertia. So essentially, the best way to explain inertia is, you know that feeling that you get when you go and exercise, or you go for a jog or a run or something, and that feeling of euphoria, and you feel achievement and accomplishment, and your endorphins are buzzing around your body, and you think, yes, that was the best thing I could have done. I'm so chuffed that I did that. Well, I love that feeling. I absolutely adore that feeling. But what I've noticed is that within exercising, getting to the gym is the hardest part. Tying those laces is the hardest bit of actually reaching that level of euphoria that I do after I work out. And I know above all else that once I've done it, I'll feel amazing for it. But when I'm snuggled up in my bed in the morning and my alarm goes off, I can't recognize that feeling. And inertia, getting started, is the hardest part of defeating inertia. So actually getting out of the bed and tying your laces and getting going is the only way to defeat inertia. The cool thing about inertia is that it will never, ever, ever go away. And it's a battle that has to be won over and over again. Now, the reason that I said the cool thing about inertia is that every single one of us has to battle with this every day. So you are not alone. Every single person, and I'm not just talking about tying your laces and getting to the gym. I'm talking about contacting those 5 people per day and adding to your who do you know list and getting prepped for the rolling training, and putting the time aside for your one-on-ones or your training with your team. Getting going, getting that ball rolling, defeating that inertia every single day is something every single one of us has to do. But the good thing is that the more you defeat inertia daily, the easier it becomes to defeat inertia. This is where our goal boards, our visual aids, the time that we've spent creating these goals and vision boards, they are so useful for inertia because they will be our key reminders on what it is that we're wanting to do. He talks about this in the book. He talks about inertia, where he had this incredible team member who did so well, and she was really on fire, and she was recruiting, and she was developing her business beautifully, and he almost felt like he didn't need to hold her hand anymore. And then he was looking through his business, and he was looking through everyone on the business, and he noticed that her CC levels had just kind of dropped entirely. And he phoned her, and he was like, hey, I forget her name, I think let's just call her Patty. And he was like, hey, Patty, look, I just wanted to find out if everything was okay. When did you decide to quit? And she said, I didn't quit. I just stopped. And that's exactly what inertia is. It doesn't make a formal decision. It's not right, I'm not doing this anymore. I've made a decision. I'm out. It literally is just one day. You just don't fancy doing the work, so you don't. And then that almost becomes easier to do the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day, and all of a sudden, you've stopped your business. And it's not because of any decision you've made, it's because of inertia. So I think my travel tip number 1 is recognize inertia, understand what it is, and know that it's not going anywhere. And then find whatever it takes for you to overcome that every single day. Travel tip number 2 is that part-time is not the same as partial quality. Don't let the luxury of being your own boss or working in your own hours allow you to diminish the quality of your business. I would rather have my team do 5 seriously quality things in one day than anything more. one, two, three quality things that are going to drive their business and do them well, rather than 10 haphazard things that don't mean anything. So I think, work in the hours that you possibly can, work in the hours that work for you, make this business work for you, but don't start sacrificing or compromising on the quality of the work that you're doing. Travel tip number 3. Shit happens. I mean, he talks about it in the book as life happens, and there's this amazing bumper sticker that was going around the States forever. But the fact of the matter is that it's true. Shit happens. And it happens to all of us in every single way, shape, or form, at every single time, most normally the inconvenient times. It's going to happen. There'll be times that are not fun. Motivation will be lacking in your team. People won't want to do it. Don't take the growing pains of your business personally. We all go through it. If people are telling you that this business is easy, they are either lying to you or they're telling the truth but are making no money. Or, of course, they've been working their tits off for years and are now enjoying the fruits of their labor. I think this business is hard. Stuff will get in the way. Be prepared for it and learn to mold yourself around it. We have got to become such fluid people in this business. Roll with the punches, take it as it comes, and just move forward in whichever direction we possibly can that's going to build our business and move it forward. So I think that, I did mention, don't take the growing pains of your business personally. That's my point for this point, is that this happens to everyone. Travel tip number 4, this one I absolutely love. Pick a horse and ride with it. Now, Forever Living is our choice of direct network marketing company. It's our vehicle to get us to the top of the network marketing industry chain. This is the one that we've chosen, and we're going to stick with it. Now, there are loads of other companies. There are loads of other direct selling network marketing platforms that have got some incredible products and some great services. And if you ever wanted to use those products or services, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. But when it comes to building your business, pick a horse and ride it. Choose Forever and commit to it. There are other companies that will be giving you the proverbial free lunch. Everyone will be able to look at a business model and go, oh yeah, that looks easy. It's not easy. We all know that from Forever Living. This business is not easy. And you can paint it in any other color that you want and call it by any other name. Network marketing is what it is, and it's not easy. So jumping from one to the other and going around a merry-go-round of different business models is actually just going to get you dizzy. Stick with what you know, stick with Forever Living, and focus on the key traits that will help you generate yourself and build your business forward. Stay rooted in reality. Travel tip number 5, don't let anybody steal your dream. I think this was probably one of the most important that I'm still learning to do, but look after your dream. It's yours. This is literally your business. You got into it for a reason. You've got your own goal boards up on your wall. You've got your own, set of achievements that you want to have for yourself by the end of however many, whatever your timeline or time frame is. But these dreams are yours, and it's fragile, and it's your responsibility to look after it. You have to hold it close. Do not doubt the reality of your own vision. Make sure you understand what your dream is. Make sure you understand what it is that you need to do to get to where you want to be. And come hell or high water, don't let anybody ruin that. I think, again, becoming a mom, I can only imagine how protective I'm going to become of this little person. And I think that's what our dreams are. They are exactly everything that we want, all of our desires, all of everything that we're willing to work towards. It's so important that you keep that protected. If people aren't interested in the business, if people think you're crazy, if people think you're wasting your time, if people think that this is a get-rich-quick scheme because they don't understand it, whatever it may be, it's theirs. That's not yours. Yours is, the vision that you have, the goals that you've got, and it's your job to protect them. And then you're stronger than you know. Now, I think there are so many different stories that I absolutely love. And the one that he talks about in this in the book is he talks about Sarah Butcher's story. And Sarah Butcher essentially is a woman who is works in the snow. She's one of those sled drivers. Sorry, I've lost my words. She's a sled driver, and she talks about how she's in this race and she's been training for months and months and months, and you know she can't get enough of the training and the work, and she's got these dogs and she's managing her sled, and she's really going for it. She's putting absolutely everything she possibly can into her training so that she can win this race. And she goes riding for absolutely ever. I think the race is like, I don't know, 4 or 5 days long. I can't imagine that length of time in the snow. But I think rather than me trying to explain it to you guys, I'm actually gonna let him do the explanation for you.
Who stands out in my mind as being the most interesting human being whom I have ever met. Her name is Susan Butcher. I admire her for the clarity of her dream and her willingness to do whatever it takes to be her best. She is a world-class musher, which means she races dog sleds. As a musher, she holds 9 speed records. 4 times she has won one of the most grueling tests of skill, courage, and stamina ever conceived in the history of competition. She races in the Iditarod. It is a race held each year on the first Saturday in March. It begins in Anchorage, Alaska, and continues over 1,100 miles to Nome, Alaska. Susan told me the story of one of her recent Iditarod races. She was in the lead with only 40 miles to go. At this point, another musher finally caught up with her, and then he passed her. She wanted to press on and retake the lead, but she was too tired. Total exhaustion had taken its toll, and fatigue had become her dominant reality. Her focus began to slip, and she began to compromise her dream. She told herself that coming in second would be okay. She found brief comfort in conceding first place and yielding to her fatigue. It would be so much easier. But then, briefly, amazingly, her mind cleared. She remembered what she truly wanted, victory. She recalled the words of an old Alaskan sage who had told her, "There are many hard things in life, but there is only one sad thing, quitting." Heroically, she began to manage her thoughts and emotions rather than letting them manage her. Suddenly, she dug deeper into her inner strength than she had ever dug before. She told herself, "I did not spend nearly 2 weeks racing in 40 degrees below zero weather with only 2 hours of sleep per night to come in second place. I did not travel over 10,000 miles via dog sled this year to prepare for this race in order to come in second place. I did not breed, raise, and train 150 dogs to come in second place. I did not feed my dogs 5 times per day and take 5 to 7 different teams of dogs out every day to come in second place. I did not just race over 4 mountain ranges, 170 miles of ocean, and 150 miles on the Yukon River to come in second place. I have dreamed and trained and worked to be a winner." And with a will to win that was unflinching, she got off of her sled and ran the last 40 miles. In the process, she recaptured the lead and won the race. Now it is your turn. It is game time. As a coach, I have only one last thing to say to you. Dare to dream and work to win.
So as you can hear, that's the ending of the book, and it's one of those cool stories that always gets the back of, the hair on the back of my neck standing up, and really excited. I hope you guys have taken and absorbed some information from this training. The only thing I can really leave you with is please read the book. Just get a hold of it. Listen to the audiobook if you don't have time, or if you're not a reader like me, get hold of the book and read it in your downtime. It will change your business. It'll change your way of thinking, and it'll change your leadership style. I promise you, it has done that for me. It's a real game changer. And then, always do your best, guys. remember that whatever you plant now, you're going to be harvesting later on. I hope that's helpful, and I'll speak to you all later. See ya!